Okay, welcome back to another episode of Third and 23. I'm your host, Alex, here to bring you another pick and prediction video. Here we go, the final video of the college football season. We've got the national championship game between the Miami Hurricanes and the Indiana Hoosiers. How did both of these teams get here? Indiana, they've been one of the top ranked teams for the majority of the season. Undefeated year, won the Big Ten championship, beat the defending national champions Ohio State in that Big Ten title game to stake their claim as the number one team and the number one seed going into the college football playoff. Miami, they've had two slip ups this year, lost to SMU, lost to Louisville, but they were able to regroup, win their games down a stretch to be able to get into the playoff as the 10 seed. And then in the playoff, they go on the road and beat Texas A&M. They beat Ohio State, the defending national champions, and then they beat Ole Miss in a wild game that went down to the wire. Indiana, on the other hand, they smashed Alabama. They could have dropped a 50 burger on them, and then they did drop a 50 burger on Oregon. So here we go. The game's gonna be in Miami, though. I don't necessarily believe it's gonna be a home field advantage for the Canes because I think that stadium's probably gonna be at least 50-50 split. Indiana does come in as a 7.5 point favorite. If you're doing the game, if you're looking to put something down on this game now, I believe that this spread has moved up to 8.5 on a lot of books. All right, so let's go ahead and get into the analyses of this game. Miami's offense versus the Indiana defense. Miami, it's all about their offensive line. That's what's the best unit on this offense. They've allowed pressure on the regular season. They allowed pressure on 16.2% of their dropbacks. That's first in the FBS. It should be noted, though, in the playoff, Carson Beck's sack rate went from, I believe, 1.6% up to 7.8%. Texas A&M, Ohio State, and Ole Miss were all able to get pressure and get to Carson Beck. Can Indiana do the same? They're the 13th ranked pressure unit in the country. And then against Oregon twice and Ohio State, two of the better offensive lines they face. Two lines that you can kind of compare to Miami a bit. 45.9% pressure rate, 12.7% sack rate. So they got after the quarterback. You got to think that they're going to be able to get after Carson Beck and get him off his spot and get him down for a few sacks in this game. And then when Beck is able to throw the ball, Indiana's defense, pass defense, top 15 in EPA, success rate, and explosive plays allowed. So it's going to be hard pressed for a quarterback who in 2 of the 3 college football playoff games barely broke 100 yards passing to really be able to get something going. For Miami to win this game, it's going to be about their running game and kind of keeping the tempo, keeping the pace on their side. And with that running game, they average 4.3 yards per carry as a team on the season. That's just kind of whatever. Mark Fletcher is the best running back on that unit. They need him to get going. In the playoff, Mark Fletcher 6.7 yards per carry, 4.2 yards after contact, and he's averaging 130 yards rushing per game. So he's took it up a notch. A lot, you could say some of his old line definitely opened up holes and bullying teams, but Mark Fletcher has definitely taken it up a notch. Now he's going to go against the best run defense though he's faced this season. I believe they're ranked number 2 in the country in yards per game. Indiana's second in EPA per rush allowed, second in success rate allowed. But, in the Big Ten, there's a lot of stat padding against some bottom tier teams. Against Penn State, Ohio State, and Oregon the first time. The reason I bring it up is Penn State, Katron Allen did have a good year, though nobody really realizes it. Ohio State is obviously a brand name program, though I'm not big on their running game. And then Oregon, which has a great running game. The running backs between those 3 teams average 22 carries for 103 yards per game. With Oregon, I'm including the first game. The second game, completely different story. All right, so flipping it over to the other side of the ball, Miami's defense against Indiana's offense. Miami's defense, what got them to the playoff, in my opinion, is this pass rush. The best pass rush tandem in the country, Ruben Bain and Akeem Mesidor, 2 guys that could be first-round NFL draft picks. As a team, they're 3rd in the country in pressure rate, 14th in sack rate. Bain and Mesidor's pressure rate hasn't taken a dip in the playoff. I believe they're both over 15% pressure rate. So 15% of pass attempts, these guys are getting pressure on the quarterback. How's Mendoza going to be able to handle that? Mendoza, Heisman Trophy winner, so it's going to be a tall task for the Cane defense already. High EPA profile, low explosive. He doesn't really throw the ball downfield that much. And when he does, it's really only going to one guy, and Charlie Becker. But high efficiency in the college football playoff, Mendoza only has 5 incomplete passes. It's a very disciplined offense as well. They're 2nd in the country in turnover margin per game. And then in the playoff, they haven't turned the ball over yet, and they've only had 6 total penalties. Now you go against this Cane defense, and I talk a lot about this pass rush. On the back end, they're 6th in the country in explosives allowed. That said, That's in terms of volume. I've said this before. The Canes, they get a lot of pressure on the quarterback, so they can't throw the ball down the field. But when you do have time and you can throw the ball down the field, you can hit plays. On 20 plus air yard pass plays, the Canes have given up 15.1 yards per attempt. That's 109th in the country. So if you got time, you can get the ball down the field. I think A&M only really hit one, but that was a really windy game. Ohio State, we saw Smitty hit some big chunks against them in that one. Ole Miss hit some big chunk plays against them in that one. Heisman Trophy winner, high efficient offense, Kurt Signetti. You got to think that they're going to be able to hit some big chunk plays over the top against this Cane defense. These Miami Hurricane defensive backs, these cornerbacks, they are, in my opinion, not as good as their stats lead you to believe. I think this pass rush really helps them out a lot. And then finally, running game. Indiana, Kalen Black, Roman Hemby, been a great duo all season. They average as a team 5.5 yards per carry, 221 yards rushing per game. Their EPA per rush is top 15th nationally. In the college football playoff, they haven't missed a beat. They're in the two games, they average 200 yards rushing. But they are going against an outstanding rush defense in the Miami Hurricanes, seventh in the nation in yards per game allowed. And the Canes have been legit. They've shut down everybody. They shut down Ole Miss's run game. I know Keywan Lacey was hurt. Take out the one home run play. You take out the one home run play, they absolutely erased Ole Miss's running game in that one. Keywan Lacey wasn't necessarily 100%, but still, they shut him down. They shut down every run game they've really faced this season. So you got to say Indiana's going to be hard pressed, I think, to be able to run the ball in this game, maybe at least early on. All right, and then finally, how do I think this game is going to play out? So again, Indiana's 7.5 point favorite. On my model, I got Indiana as a 14.5 point favorite. I look at this, there's a lot of like the storylines and all of that around Miami because the game is in Miami. You know, old Hurricane stars are gonna coming out for the game. There's a lot of buzz around the team. Cristobal has kind of shed that he can't get it done in the big games this season. He's shed that title that and been able to get here to the college football playoff, get to the national championship game. 60 minutes away from me, it'll to bring the U back, so to speak, right? They haven't won a national championship in 25 years. Indiana, they're the team that, you would have never thought Indiana would have been here just a few years ago. They were one of the worst teams in the country. So how's this game really going to play out? You got two teams on really opposite sides of the football spectrum in terms of brand, right? I see this game and I say Miami is just a very flawed team in my opinion. They're a flawed team that their line of scrimmage is able to mask those flaws. The offensive line is legitimate. The edge rushers are legitimate. The run defense has been legit. They swarm after the football. But I think they are very vulnerable on the back end, and they're going against the Heisman Trophy winner quarterback in Fernando Mendoza. He's going to be able to take advantage of these defensive backs that I just don't believe it. I don't believe in them. Outside of Keontae Scott, I don't think they're really that good on the back end. And on the flip side of that, Carson Beck, there's a lot about getting to this national championship game, but the reality is they seem to be afraid to let him pass the ball. On that game-winning touchdown drive, right against Ole Miss, that was running the football and little horizontal throws to Malachi Tony. It wasn't really Carson Beck kind of dissecting. It's just something I noticed. And against Indiana, it's going to be hard pressed for him to be able to throw the ball down the field. Or it's going to be hard pressed for him to get anything going down the field if Indiana jumps out to a big early lead. So game script is going to matter in this one. And because of that, go ahead and give me the Hoosiers. I'm going to lay the 7.5. I think Indiana, they're going to get a lot of comparison talk to that 2019 LSU team, in my opinion, after this game, because I think they might put one on Miami in this game. Give me the Hoosiers, and I'm going to lay the 7.5. So then that wraps it up. That wraps it up for the college football season. So stay tuned. I'm going to have some off-season videos for college football as I do for the NFL as well. And I got my NFL pick and prediction videos still going if you're tuning into those. And it's been a good season. We finished green, finished with a winning record. So that's always a great thing. Goal was always 60% ATS accuracy. We finished 53 regular season. In the playoff, we've done pretty solid in the playoff as well. It's all we can hope for, right? So good luck to you if you're betting on this game, if you're putting anything down on this game, or if you're tailing me. Hey, hopefully we get it done. That's it. Take care.